My name is Christopher Saunders, and this is the Connecticut Sports Talent Show, where we talk all things talents in Connecticut. And on today's show, I'm pleased to have the head coach of the O'Brien Tech football program, Zach Mihaly. Coach, it's a pleasure to be able to have you on, man.
It's a pleasure to be here, Chris. Thank you for inviting me.
I think it's one of those things of which, you think about the big time conferences, the FCX, even the NVL, the SCC, the CCC, and everything else. But I've always felt like there are certain teams and mainly conferences that don't get a lot of love, a lot of respect. And I feel like the tech schools do not get that. And I think it's great. And I hope this will attract more tech schools that want to come on. But it's great to be able to have an O'Brien Tech football coach to be able to come on here and just speak about, because tech football is fun football to be able to watch.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And you kind of nailed it on the head. The Tech League doesn't get the recognition necessarily, quite as much as the other conferences. But, and I've only been here, this is my second season, but the group of kids I've been coaching are good athletes and overall good kids. So yeah, I think you'll see in the very near future the quality of competition rise, and not just with O'Brien Tech, but with the other tech schools around the state.
And we'll talk about the O'Brien Tech and everything else in a little bit. But I want to be able to talk about yourself, Coach, because obviously you have a very long track record. You played at Seymour, you were at Seymour. You also went to Nichols and played football and such. Kind of just speak a little bit and kind of give the people who may not know you kind of what attracted you to the game of football, and how did that lead you to go to Nichols?
Yeah, really, I come from a football family. My father, who I look dearly up to, it was a really, really good football player. He played at Trumbull High, then he went and played at Yale, had a lot of success there, and then he was in the Denver Broncos training camp for a little bit. I believe the year was 1982. He was there. He eventually got cut, but he got there. So growing up, I always want to model myself after him. I didn't have quite the playing career like my father, but I always wanted to mimic everything he did. And the one unfortunate thing was he won a lot of championships, and I haven't yet. So, but that's what really got me into the game. Was my dad, and and the coaches when I was playing have really been a strong point in my life with football and made me want to continue coaching. And that's where I'm at now with that.
Now, you said you went to Trumbull.
Correct.
Okay, and so I bring that up is, Trumbull is one of those schools, just going back to when I was playing sports, is that it's a very, very competitive. I mean, sports down there is very kind of like, as soon as you're a certain age, it's almost like you're going to play this, you're going to do that. But sports is held to a high standard. Do you think kind of being around that and also seeing your father being as successful as he was kind of rubbed off on you, both as a player and then now as a coach?
Yeah, certainly. When my father played there, his junior year, they lost the state championship. And then his senior year, they went undefeated. Was number one team in the state and in New England, and his coach was Coach McDougal, God rest his soul. And he was a really tough, hard-nosed coach. And I played for Coach Sponheimer, who was very similar to Coach Mapp, if you talk to my dad. And the hard work and dedication they had to get to that level to be successful really rubbed off on me. But not just doing it, but just doing it the right way also. And that more comes into my philosophy coaching now is we're going to work hard, but we're going to do it the right way, and teaching these kids the difference between right and wrong. And I'm very fortunate to have, the same bloodline as my father, and for him to have those successes and tell me those stories and those memories and those lessons, and to learn from that, and to be able to use that and teach it to my kids now. I'm blessed to have that, because I don't think if that wasn't the case, I'd be coaching football right now.
Do you think that as you were growing up, and I know you talked about kind of the experiences that you had, you played at Seymour. Seymour, they're still very, very good in football. I mean, it's a shame that we couldn't see the talent. And actually, speaking of Nichols, because you were in the Nichols hat, Chris
Yeah.
Dion, if you played at Seymour, he's
Yep.
going to Nichols, and I think
Right.
that's kind of great to see that connection again with Nichols and Seymour. Do you think kind of going through now to go from seeing Trumbull from where your father was to then now going to Seymour and seeing how they run things? It's like you went from another high school as far as high quality sports, and then you go to Seymour, same exact thing. The talent is probably as equal as it can be.
Yeah, it's funny because when I was a kid, I'd wear my dad's, state championship, jacket that they got when they won, and I saw his plaques and trophies and rings and this and that. And again, I always said to myself, I want that. That's what I want. And going to Seymour, let me come back a little bit. The way my father's mentality was, it didn't matter who you were, we were going to beat you, and we were just better than you, but not in a cocky way, but in a confident way. And when I played at Seymour, yeah, I tell this to people all the time. Our mentality was a state championship every year. That was the goal. Now, we didn't reach that, but that was the goal. That's what we were practicing for. That's what we were lifting for. I didn't even know what the classes were. I didn't even know what they stood for, because our mentality was, okay, we're Seymour, you're Staples. It didn't matter. We're going to go on the field and kick your tail. And that was our mentality. But I think that's what drove us to be as good as we were, as consistent as we were, because it didn't matter. It was mano a mano. It didn't matter how big the school was. We didn't care how many kids you had on the team. We are who we are. You are who you are. Let's rock. That was our mentality. It's not until I got into coaching when I really understood what the classes were and how they broke down and what they meant. And people are like, really? Like, one coach was telling me he played at Hamden. He goes, we were a double L school. We would have smashed you because you were S. I go, no, you wouldn't have. That stuff just didn't matter to us, But, and that's kind of how it was. And it fit well with Coach Sponheimer, because he was really similar to Coach McDougall. So my father could really relate to that and help guide me as I was playing, if I was having a down day or whatever. And again, I was really fortunate to have that between my dad and Coach Sponheimer.
Sponheimer, it's a shame I couldn't be able to broadcast because I was a freshman in high school, sophomore, at the time and such. But just knowing from the conversations I've had and just trying to gather, because I broadcast in the NVL for football and basketball.
Mm-hmm.
So I try to get as much history as I can on every team. Kind of like Ansonia. Ansonia is like the guy, like they're like the Alabama of the NVL. Right. Saying? They're always bigger, faster, stronger. I mean, every year they have a different running back, it seems like, but that running back for 3,000 yards. So, but right. I think, you talk about the Seymour, the history of that. And I think Sponheimer was such a great coach for that. And they've had a lot of good ones to come through even after him. Would you say he kind of, I don't want to say laid the foundation, because Seymour was so successful before and after, but do you think that kind of, you being able to learn from him and being able to see and kind of the standard that he had kind of helped you, your development as a football player?
Yeah, absolutely. It wouldn't be an injustice to say that, that he built the foundation of that program, and he's so valuable to that school, that program, and the town, and the amount of kids and guys he coached will say the same thing. He was a father figure. You loved your father, but you also loved him like a father as well. And he gave you tough love, and a lot of us needed that tough love and that guidance. And I just can't put it in words to describe how important he is to myself and so many of my former teammates and those who played before me and then after me. And he's a big role. We for the guys who are coaching, like Joe Stockmole and other guys who are coaching, we all have Spoony in us. We just can't coach like Spoony did back in the heyday. With that same level of intensity that he had, you just couldn't match him, because there's only one Coach Sponheimer. But we all have Spoony inside of us, and I would say quietly, like when we're trying to make a decision, we all say to ourselves, what would Spoony have done in this situation? And you catch yourself doing it more times than not.
And you mentioned, Coach Stockmo, who's the coach at Oxford. And it's funny that you mentioned about how Sponheimer, about how much respect the players had for him and how they thought of him as a father figure. If they're having trouble at home or such, they can go to him and everything. I know Coach Stockmo had a situation a couple years ago where there was questions if he would be even still at the school, and there were a number of players, I think former and current, that vouched for him, and the administration said, "All right, you know what? It's their word is gospel," and he stayed. And and just my couple years that I've had to be able to talk with him, I could see why the players love him, because while he hasn't had maybe the top elite talent, he squeezes as much as he can out of it, but he doesn't diminish the fact of because of the players that he has. He gets as much as he can, but he also sees that there's more than just football. These are young men going into the workforce who may go to school, may go to whatever job it is, but he tries to make them better people as well as better football players.
Yeah, 1,000%. And the thing that Joe, myself, and other guys who have coached that played for Coach Sponheimer, and the reason why there's that respect and love for him is because you love Spoon. Spoon loves you just as much, like his own. And I could truly say that about Joe with his team. And I coach with Joe. Joe just doesn't, he doesn't just develop players, but he develops his coaches as well. And, Joe's a big part of me becoming a head coach because of the things I learned from him. And Joe is a guy who you call him, he's picking up. And if he doesn't pick up, he's calling you right back. And if you need him, boom, he is there. He is there. And that's why when that stuff went down, you saw so many players there for him. And a lot of us were there. I was there too in support of him. And I was just becoming a head coach at that time too. And he's very loyal, and he's not afraid to say he loves you and show his love and appreciation for you. And that's why, that's why so many of his players love him. And I love him too. I would take a bullet for the guy no matter what, because I know he would too. And if he had to take 2 bullets, if he survived the first one, he'd take the second one. And that's just how Joe is, man. He is just a pure, good human being, and it shows with his appreciation from his former players.
Coach, I want to go into the fact of your kind of the coaching side. When did you kind of get the itch? Was it towards the end of your career at Nichols? Was it in between? Was it at the beginning? When did you start to kind of think to yourself that, I have a certain floor with being a football player, but now I need to make the transition to becoming my second career, which is becoming a coach?
Yeah, when I was in college, before we went up to training camp for football at Nichols, I would help out coaching Pop Warner, and a lot of my buddies were coaching Pop Warner, so it was a really good time for us to get together and just coach the youth, and it was like we were playing again, at high school, even though I was playing in college. So I kept doing it. And then after I was done with my final season, we had a coaching change at Nichols. And I had asked the new head coach if I could help out during spring football. And he let me. And I'm very grateful for that. There was Coach Kevin Loney, who I believe is up in Maine. I forgot the name of the college he's at, but he's up in Maine now coaching. And that really gave me my itch where I'm like, I want to do this. I thoroughly enjoy it. I was helping out in the weight room and then spring football, and I just loved it. I've been a part of the team since I was a kid, and I started playing football in 8th grade, but I played baseball since I was like 5 years old. So I've always been a part of a team in that competitive atmosphere, and I just wasn't willing to let it go at that point when I was done playing. So what's the next best thing to do? Coach football or baseball? Just coach, get into coaching. And I've learned a lot from a lot of different people, and I've been humbled. And you think you know everything when you're a young coach, but you really don't. And you need to listen to people and understand that and really experience it. And I did enough learning and experiencing where I thought I could be a head coach, and I went for it, and I got the opportunity, and here we are today. So that, it's more so the great thing about coaching is when you can make a positive impact on a young man's life, and they understand things differently than they did before, and it helps them grow as a person individually. That's winning in coaching. You win there. There's no rings or trophies, but that's a win, because that's the ultimate goal, is preparing them for their next stages of life. And that sends a strong message, and that's so addictive because it's so positive, and you don't need to get the pat on the back for that. You see it when they go to college and they graduate, or they get a job, or they get married, or have kids, and all the above there. And that's why you stick with coaching, because there's a lot of bad stuff in the world, and kids could easily get influenced to do the wrong things. And sports, whether it's football, baseball, which I coach, if you could help them stay away from that, that's a home run 10 out of 10 times.
I'm glad that you mentioned that, because I know obviously during any coach's, track, whichever jobs they take, because very rarely does a coach take one job and they're there forever. There's going to, they wear different hats. In the case of football, different helmets, different jerseys, so on and so forth. I know in the time that you were at Nanawag, and I saw obviously because of, they were planning on going to Sacred Heart, they were going to play, but because of what happened with the school closing, they ended up having to go a different route to go to a different side. How tough was it at Nanawag? And now, I'm not saying the players, I'm just saying in the fact of trying to draw players to come and then try to keep them because of just certain situations that were out of your control.
Yeah, it was challenging. Trying to be innovative and creative, and trying to create a culture, in which is positive. It was challenging. We were low numbers. So after my first season there, we had about 35 kids. And then the second season we had 23. And then my third season we had 25. So it was really difficult. And my last two seasons there, we decided to go with a JV schedule, for the safety of the players. We didn't want to put them in a position where they could get hurt, because we were young. We didn't have a lot of upperclassmen at the time. So myself and the coaching staff felt it was best we try to develop these kids at the JV level and get them ready for varsity football when we finally have enough numbers to play there. And and it was good up in to a certain point, but yeah, it was challenging. There was a lot of battles we were battling, but the administration worked very well with me, and were very understanding. And there's a few changes amongst the administration, so there everything got put on hold for a little bit until the storm settled. But what ended up happening was we ended up co-oping, and we had an agreement with Sacred Heart that point, and which was very positive for both sides. They were low on numbers, we were low on numbers, we were really close to each other, so logistically it made sense, and things were starting to go in the right direction. That was my third season there. We had originally talked to them my second season. Things just didn't work out with the timing and everything else, but we still stayed at it to ensure that those players that played at Nanawag, at least from my side I could speak about, had the opportunity to still continue playing football, even though they might not be wearing a Nanawag uniform anymore. But they had put a lot of hard work in and dedicated themselves and sacrificed a lot. So the main goal was to make sure that they were still able to play football in the future. Now, obviously, what happened with Sacred Heart currently, it's a shame and it's unfortunate, and no one's happy about that, but it happened. But I know Nanawag is co-oping with Wildcat Tech, who we see in our fifth game of the season. So it'll be a nice return for me over there this year. But, I'm glad to see that they were able to work that out with Wildcat Tech.
Isn't that funny? Because like when you think of like, okay, I don't know if you've ever heard of this, but like the 7 ways to Kevin Bacon, somehow, some way, something's going to be connected to Kevin Bacon. It's almost like the time that you spent at Nanawag, and then just so happens to be you're at O'Brien Tech. Nanawag's now co-oping with Wildcat Tech, who, like you said, you see the 5th game of the season.
Yeah.
It's like you can't make this up. It's just this is what makes sports so darn beautiful, man. It just somehow it just wherever you started, it just comes back to you in some fashion or some way.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's the football gods working their magic, and it's poetic justice, right? And it's a great story. It's going to be a great memory, and I can't wait for the opportunity. I know the kids on that side, and I love those kids to death, and I would do anything for them. I still talk to quite a few of them that used to play for me that moved on to college, and it was such a great experience for me. And I always told them, and it's true, that they did more for me than I did for them, and I hope I was positive in their lives moving forward. And sometimes we move to other places, but the memories we made together are never forgotten. But yeah, it's going to be interesting. I still talk to their athletic director, Declan Kurt. We still keep in contact. He actually lives a town over from me now, so I see him out and about a few times. But we text back and forth every now and then. So it'll be a nice little homecoming. But yeah, that's sports in a nutshell. And that's what's great about sports. And that's another thing that's so addictive to it is those types of memories, right? Those are things you could tell 20 years down the line with your friends or whoever you connected with to in those certain places. And, Coach Sponheimer always said, make a memory. And, again, I say we always have Spoony in us. I say that to my kids too, make a memory. So that's what it is.
And hey, speaking of memory, this is going to be a season, God willing, that we're going to have Connecticut high school football. Did not have it last year because of COVID. And O'Brien Tech will be able to make hopefully many, many memories with you at the helm for the second year, second season with the program. I kind of just want to ask you, because last year being your de facto first year, going through everything, and I know OTA start on Thursday, Friday, Saturday. You have Sunday off, and then you have conditioning for a week, and then pads are given out on the 21st. How difficult, Coach? Because I know, and I'm not saying this because of the tech schools, I'm saying this because of what was lost last year. How much are you going to have to basically go to square one and dumb things down? Because, and it's not because of the talent. I don't want to make it come off like that. So I hope nobody thinks that. But I'm saying it because regardless, you stop doing anything for a year plus, and then you get back into it. It's like, I forgot how to do some of this. So how are you going to go about that?
Well, the one thing that we were able to do last year was still be able to practice.
Okay.
And we were able to get our base foundation in with our offense and our defense while we were able to practice. Now, I think a lot of coaches are starting from square one again, based on, you could do the 7-on-7s, you could do the lineman challenges, so on and so forth, but nothing really correlates to the live competition of a game, right? So we all missed out on that last year. So we're all kind of starting from square one again. As far as O'Brien Tech, we have a good core group of guys that were there last season in the fall. So they already have a good understanding of what we're doing now. And they learned it pretty quick last year, and that's what we're expecting now, is for them to learn it pretty quick now as we start OTAs. Hopefully, knock on wood, I think that's every coach's dream, that their players learn everything quickly. That's on everyone's Christmas list. But, we got a good group of guys. So I don't think we're going to have to make it I don't think we're going to have to dumb it down too much. Obviously, we want to make it as simple as possible, because we do have to make up for a lot of lost time there. And I think more so it's just getting in the motion of things, playing fast, transitioning quickly, going from one period to the other, just like in a game, lining up correctly, and just doing all the little things right. And not just doing them right, but just dominating it. So it's not even a second thought that we have to fix something. So then we can work on the bigger things. So I really think that's what we're going to focus on in the beginning, is getting all the little things right so we can move quickly to the bigger goals that we want to achieve.
And you speak about the leadership coach, and in various conversations I've had with coaches, and I've asked them this obviously off recording, just via text, or for the few that I know that I can just call and be like, hey, I just wanted to ask you a couple questions about this. This almost the same response I've gotten from all of them is, I want them, the players themselves, their players. They want more than anything, blocking, catching properly, technique, offensive linemen with their feet. I mean, I could break down all the other positions, but they just want their players to know the details. They don't care about if they mess up on, XY banana Z to the left, curl to the right, whatever. They just want to make sure that they're in the proper position, because it's much better to, do that consistently. It's much easier than to have to repeat plays right over and over again.
Right. Yeah, and exactly. I mean, that's half the battle, is lining up correctly. I mean, if you line up correctly, you give yourself a shot, right? Like defensively, I want all 11 guys to run to the football. That's a simple and easy thing to ask for. Now, it's easier said than done, but you do that more often than not, good things will happen. Cause a fumble, tackle behind the line, interception, so on and so forth. Just little things like that. If you could hammer down the technique and they run a route correctly, okay, or they catch the ball correctly, it's much easier to teach and fix something, after the fact if it's done wrong. So, the really get down to the basics and fundamentals. And, when it's as simple as that, a kid is going to understand what they did wrong, if they did something wrong, if tackling, if they missed a tackle, well, why'd they miss it? They didn't wrap up, or they weren't low enough. They weren't driving their hips. Their footwork was wrong. They flipped their hips the wrong way, so they got there too late. Things like that. So, coaches are going to say, we want to be able to take the right steps, line up correctly, block correctly, catch the ball correctly, so on and so forth.
What kind of, speaking of the tech schools and kind of the tech league itself, when I think of kind of like in baseball, I mean, who's your favorite baseball team?
Yankees.
Okay, good. So same here. So when you think of the AL East, you think of nothing but short porches, the stadiums are small, there's home runs left and right. But then you think of another division like, I don't know, let's say the AL West, for example. The pitching's a little bit better. I think it could be argued. When I think of the high school level, as far as for football, the FCAC is all offense. The NVL, the FCAC is throw. It's all that. In the NVL, it's more of the modern. I mean, you remember, it was kind of like ground and pound. We're going to beat you 3 yards in a cloud of dust. What can be, I'm not as familiar with the tech league itself. So kind of speak to me, what kind of offense could we be seeing from O'Brien Tech at all as far as this year?
Yeah, in the tech league, it's kind of a little mix of everything, if you will. For us, we're going to be a spread team. We're going to spread you out. We're going to throw when we can, but with the same mindset is we want to be really good at running the football. And that's going to be our goal this preseason, is getting really good at running the football. And only throw if we have to. But we have a quarterback in Elijah Moore, who's his first year playing quarterback, but we did 7-on-7 in a passing league this summer at Oxford, and he just progressed each week and got better, which kind of made us say, maybe we could throw the ball more than we anticipated. So really, we'll see how we are blocking up front. That's more, that's mainly the main horse there, if you will. That's going to determine what we're going to do more so. But we have a good group up front that's been working hard all summer as well. But yeah, we're going to be pretty much spread, but with the mindset is we're going to run the ball at will.
How difficult is it going to be, Coach, because of, again, going back to last year, because not really having much, I know you were able to practice, but it's one thing to practice, it's another
Yeah.
once you're under the lights. How hard is it going to be during certain game situations to not call certain plays, or just kind of go to, if you know, let's say COVID never happened and you're able to have a season, then you feel more comfortable calling certain things. But because of the the loss of the season and everything, you're kind of having to slow things down a tad. How hard is that going to be the first couple games? Because the players are not there yet. They'll be there, but they're not going to be there the first couple games.
Yeah, I can't pinpoint it specifically. Again, I think a lot of people are in that situation because we just don't know. Last time these kids played football was 2 seasons ago. It's going to be a lot of trial and error. I think we'll try to knock as much of that out during the preseason as we can, and really just see how we do throughout the week before we play in games, and see how we do in games. So, again, coaches all the time, they go in with a game plan. They have to change it up real quick and make adjustments real quick. And I think we're all kind of in that same boat, because we don't know what our limitations are exactly. If we played a season last year, you kind of have a better idea of what you have coming this year, but we don't know, because for the most part, I'm only returning one starter on defense that on this team now, who started at safety as a freshman. Now he's a senior this year, and he's going to be a defensive end. So he's in a new position just because he grew, got stronger and faster. I think we're all in the same boat with that. Is it going to be difficult? Yeah, but that's why we make adjustments, and we have plan B, plan C, plan D all the time. So we'll just have to wait and see and play it out.
Yeah, things never get really scripted. Even in the NFL, where they have the 20 scripted plays, a lot of times they get away from that, because if it's not working early, then you got to go to, like you said, plan B, plan C, plan D, so on and so forth.
Right.
Coach, I really do appreciate you coming on. I do have one more question for you real quick. For people who, again, like myself and others who have not seen O'Brien Tech, what can people expect from your team this year?
You're going to see a team that's going to hustle and work hard. And our mind says we're going to outwork everybody, and we're going to be more conditioned than everyone. And these kids know the reputation of the Tech League, and they don't want that anymore. Their last season that they had before I got here, they went 4-6. That's not the standard anymore, and that's not acceptable. And the kids take that to heart, and they've been working hard to prove that that's not going to be the standard anymore. And they want to win, and they're going to seize the opportunity. They got something taken away from them last year, so they're humbled in that regards and understands how important it is. And they're not going to miss this opportunity. And we are going to play hard, and we are going to compete to the last whistle of the game.
Coach, that sounds like something. What would Spoony do? But Coach, thanks so much for being able to come on. This was great, and I'd love to be able to get you back on during the season. Regardless, I don't care about wins or losses. I care about the development of the team, the players, coach, and everything. So I'd love to be able to get you back on to be able to have your first actual season with O'Brien Tech.
Yeah, absolutely, Chris. And I joke, I've been a head football coach for 5 seasons, and this is my second varsity season coaching because of all the circumstances beforehand. But yeah, I definitely love to come on during the season. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure, and I'm very thankful for it. So I look forward to being on here again with you.
I'll wrap things up here in the College Sports Talent Show. So until next time, stay safe. From our CT stands for Connecticut Talent, and I'm our Jerry. Find them all. Enjoy the rest of your day, everybody, and be well.